Hardhead Hockey, we are here. It is 15 June 2024, and we have a very special guest with us today alongside normal co-host Grant Miller, Columbus, Ohio. I'm out on the West Coast right now. We are 17 minutes and counting before Phil Pritchard is going to put on those pretty white gloves, and he's going to bring that sterling silver cup out to the ice in Alberta. Is it going to be presented tonight? We don't know, but that's why we're here, and we're going to be with you every step of the way through your cup mania. We know it can make, psychotic tendencies this time of year, as we've discussed in episodes prior. With that said, we want to hear from you as always. Facebook, Twitter, hardheadhockey1@gmail.com. I'll go ahead and get this out of the way. Our fan shout out of the week is going to go to my uncle, Mike Flanagan of Somerset, Kentucky. He actually emailed us in this past week and said he's really enjoying the podcast. I know he's not a traditional hockey fan, but said he's coming around to it. So love to hear that. Episode rundown today. Happy Father's Day, everybody. A little history lesson in regards to the Father's Day traditions of the NHL. We're going to be breaking down the Stanley Cup up to this point. Might see a winner tonight. We got the Landeskog press conference with Chris McFarland that we're going to be hitting hard. That coming out of Denver. NHL housekeeping, as always, hard hats of the week. And then the question we're posing for the week, what has been your favorite hockey moment with your father in respect to Happy Father's Day? Grant, to tee this one off, I'm coming from a long line tradition of cross-country tournaments. Detroit, Canada, Toronto.
Put a lot of mileage on the family.
A lot of mileage on the Ford Explorer, right? We really tuned up the odometer. And it was pretty much a every weekend commitment from September through April. And my bag smelled like my equipment smelled like shit. And it was a big time commitment. And the guy who drove me to practice and brought me Arby's after every single practice, I think I survived on Arby's for an entire year at one point, is with us here today. And with that, Hardhead Hockey, I'd like to introduce my father, Richie Dunn.
Hey, thanks, Trent. Thanks, Grant. Woo! Round of applause.
Big taps for Richie Dunn tonight, guys.
Well, thank you so much, Grant. Grant, I really do have an opening question probably for you, an opening salvo. So Trent has me on a week after following David Jensen. And I guess, if you love your father, would you do that to him?
It's a good question. And you got to kind of question his coaching skills, setting the lineup the way it needs to, putting you in a bit of a tough spot. But, the Father's Day weekend episode is prime, that's prime spot for you. But, and it's funny. That's a good one.
The David Jensen interview. David Jensen is a guy I want to have a beer with. David Jensen is an American hero for all he's done for hockey, for all he's done for this country. That interview was phenomenal, and David Jensen is one of the most interesting people I've ever listened to. Just phenomenal.
I had a great time. Trent and I kind of wrapped up our portion, and I was traveling down to Atlanta for work, and Trent's such a great teammate. He was like, I'm going to get this edited and out there for you so you have something to listen to at the airport. And he kind of rushed to get it in and had a great job. So I really appreciated it. I didn't need to go out of his way, but I loved listening to his interview. And Trent, you did a great job of really pulling a lot of good stories out of him. I don't think he needed to try. He seemed like a guy who really likes to tell the tale and get it going. But yeah, I thought you did a great job with teeing him up for him.
I appreciate it, brother. Yeah, I hit the gas on that one for sure. A little nitrous boost.
Pretty easy when you get rolling with him, man.
Yeah.
I did not know much about his career just from, not being in Boston and kind of that setup. But man, he's got a really fascinating background. I loved hearing it.
I got to tell you, Grant, you know this too. I pride myself on probably one of the better jobs I do in my life. Everyone wears different hats, and one of the best hats I ever wear is hypothetical GM. Grant, we play it all the time. I present Grant with hypothetical trades all the time as if I was the GM of the Colorado Avalanche. So with that, I was very confident in placing my father after Dave Jensen, just knowing the roles, picking your spots, so I feel very strong about that.
You're doing a great job in the captain's chair.
Yeah,
I've full vote of confidence from the team.
Thank you. So with that, we'll roll into our first segment here. So real quick, we'll touch on the game. The Panthers lead the Oilers 3-0, and we're going to break down all that analysis coming your way in, I'd say, about 15 minutes. Before then, we have a first of its kind in hard hat hockey history as we celebrate this great holiday. We've got hockey trivia being hosted by Richie Dunn.
Here we go. All right. So for all the audience, I thought this would be fun. Why not have Grant Miller v. Trent Dunn in a little like ice hockey trivia? These are some easy lobs out there for the boys, but I thought we could get started and have a little fun with it. So you guys don't have to buzz in. What I'm going to do is alternate. I'm going to let Grant go first. I've got 5 questions. So question number 1 goes to Grant, and then Trent, you can either steal, agree, or disagree, and we'll play it like that. You guys ready?
Ready. I'm ready.
Grant, what year was the first ice hockey game ever played?
These things usually start at the collegiate, professional or just like recorded game?
Recorded game ever.
Okay. Baseball started kind of post America's Civil War. I think hockey was probably around that time. I'm going to go 1872. Might be too old.
Trent, I can't give you a hint, but it's your turn.
I'm gonna go 1840.
All right. I got to give that point to my man, Grant Miller, 1875.
Wow. We did closest to the pin there. That was fun.
Closest to the pin. Grant Miller for 1. Great job. All right, Trent, this one's to you first. It's a yes/no question. Are hockey pucks frozen prior to a game?
That's a yes.
Grant, agree or disagree?
I agree.
Okay, you both get a point on that. Grant Miller 2, Trent Dunn 1. Question 3, Grant Miller. Can NHL teams use emergency goalies?
So you're going to get the academic side of me here. Are we defining emergency goalies as like a skated player filling in for injury, or
either or?
I mean, you hear that phrase every so often throughout the year. So I'm going to say that is a provision that teams are allowed to use. Yes.
Trent, agree or disagree?
100%. And we've seen some of the best memories of every season come from the emergency goalie story. Yeah.
Both your hosts, ladies and gentlemen, the emergency goalie is a yes.
Okay.
All right. Nice job, fellas. Grant Miller.
I was scared that was a trick question you're getting me double checking myself here.
Grant, I'm way too simple for trick questions. So here we go, Tim. What team has the most Stanley Cup wins?
Canadians.
Grant Miller.
The Montreal Canadiens.
Point for each of the fellas. That's 4-3. Trent, you're down 1. Last question starts with Grant Miller. Grant, who is the NHL's all-time leading scorer?
That's be Wayne Gretzky. It's the great one.
Trent?
Yeah, I'm gonna roll with the G-man.
You guys did great. So it's a 5-4 win for Grant Miller on our top 5 questions of the day.
The Civil War timeline got me.
Yeah.
It helps taking a few history classes. Really puts it in perspective. Nothing happens in a vacuum, folks. All these things, once you guys get back from the war, they need to burn off some steam.
I know. I randomly I took art history at Worcester one semester. It didn't do me well, I guess. So I'll go back to the drawing board. All right.
No, that was fun. We should work in more.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good segment.
I hope that translates well for the listeners.
Yeah. Rogers Place coming back on TV right now looks electric. It's a do or die mentality. Saw a lot of tweets about the streets of Alberta. Seems to be a ruckus environment, and they literally have nothing to lose. So hopefully they show out and can extend this series. With that comes the history lesson of the week. First and foremost, this history of Father's Day traditions is sponsored by the Labrador Retriever Club. The Labrador Retriever Club maintains a special fund for the emergency care of labs who are abandoned across the country. Reach out today at thelabrador.com. LabradorClub.com. What better way to enjoy the Stanley Cup in all its glory than with your new best friend? Go Labradors. So, boys, 25 years ago, Barry Trotz, head coach of the Nashville Predators, introduces the first of its kind, the Dad's Trip. And since then, we've seen just about every team participate every single year, as it has become a staple in the league that most teams look forward to, often on a road trip. And a lot of teams do a dad's trip and a mom's trip at this point. Not sure how they pick it, but essentially the parents join for one of the road trips. And the dad's trip is a special one because it was the inaugural tradition as it was introduced in Nashville. Love that Barry Trotz introduced this. Article from the Winnipeg Times quotes Neil Pionk. The difference between the dad strip and the mom strip is quite stark. I can only imagine the hooligans and the shenanigans that take place on the road. And then goes on to referencing the kind of the added pressure of playing on the road with 30 head coaches up in the suite, all, obviously participating in the libations and feeling no pain while watching their sons play hockey. But I just thought this was a really cool tradition and a very appropriate time to discuss it. So with that, I'll leave the floor open if anyone has any thoughts on this or any additional comments.
Do you think, this history's been going on for so long? I didn't know it was 25 years in the making. It's a good pull from it. But you think as guys kind of move around the league, their dads have been like, oh man, like the Dallas dad strip, way more organized and more fun than, pick a team, Anaheim, some orgs, put more into it or are a little bit more fun. That'd be a funny, backstory to get from some guys.
Yeah, I gotta imagine.
Oh no, like
yeah, to your point, like I gotta imagine too, like the plane ride is probably different. Like some organizations probably put them on a commercial. Others maybe they're flying with the team. Maybe, they're getting treated real well coming out of the airport, staying in the same suites or whatnot.
And you gotta think, team performance plays a pretty big role too. If you're on a real rough stretch, and then you got the dads coming in, maybe the coach isn't super stoked about the distraction, or, he could be a different type of coach, be like, no, this is just what we need. We need all the dads in the building to get the guys locked in.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. I didn't know it was like around for that long. And I the Jackets have done every year. And back when they were on Fox Sports Ohio, they always did a really good kind of like pre and post game kind of breakdown. They'd get some of the dads in for interviews. They really made it like an event. And the moms too. I know it's Father's Day weekend. We're celebrating that, but to give some hockey moms some credit, I'm sure they can, find a good entertaining trip with everybody.
I love it because I do
too.
Growing up with youth hockey, you look forward to the post game breakdown with dad in the car, Ford Explorer, sometimes green, sometimes blue, red, kind of a purplish later on in life. And with that, they get to relive that. Not only are they doing film with their own analysts, but now you got dad on the trip as well. Breaking down.
It's also a reward for the dads. I mean, obviously, it's not lost on any of us now that we're kind of older here, the sacrifice that our dads made to let us play, sports and travel sports at that. So, you get these kids all the way up to the show and the kids are, it's a job. It's professional. It's not easy, but there's parts that you hear guys talk about how fun like road trips are and, the camaraderie of the guys, the dads should be able to dip into that a little bit too as their sons have made it. I mean, it's a reward for everyone.
Absolutely. 100%. Hockey dads across the nation, well, I guess two great nations, are heroes. And on that note, Josh Morrissey this past go around, had to bring his brother because his father recently passed away during the season. So with that,
very touching. With that, I must say, if anyone's listening and you're not in the NHL, you can do dad's trips and not be a, professional hockey player.
Oh,
take some time, spend some time with your dad if you guys are on good terms. It's special to have that relationship. My father passed when I was really young. I wish him and I could go on a golf trip, every summer. It'd be great. So if you're out there, you're listening, not to get too deep, you don't have to be a professional athlete to do a dad's trip. You can always, make some time.
Don't take the fathers for granted. So
certainly.
Rich, you got any parting shots with the dad strip history lesson?
I love it. I think the NHL, I gotta wonder to Grant's point, every team does it different, right? You can only imagine, you gotta love the Bees. You can only imagine like the Bees dads, probably a little fun, the GM's probably like, hey, the boys gotta be, 10 o'clock, got a game tomorrow, type thing. Like the dads are like, oh no, we'll just have the boys out for a while. And, you may get a little more concern. Let's just say Anaheim. We love Anaheim, but let's just say it's a little more quiet where they don't have to like wrestle dad in. Cause, like Trent said, a lot of times dads probably in youth hockey and club hockey growing up, it's, son, you got like a 4 a.m., 5 a.m. game tomorrow, but let's get you in bed at 9. I'll lock the door and I'll just be back in a little bit.
Yeah, half the time too, you didn't have to worry about the players as we got older. Like I remember the tournament in Canada, Silver Sticks. A lot of listeners are probably familiar with Silver
Not a
Sticks.
big deal.
Yeah. And, you got, it was mayhem. It was chaos in that hotel. We were in high school. So like old enough to do stupid stuff and the dads are nowhere to be found. And it's just chaotic environment, but fun.
It's hard to be locked in as a parent. If you start travel sports, I mean, I started baseball at like 9, so like by the time I was 16, 17, I had a pretty long leash on those road trips at a certain point because it's just like, just whatever. Like if you're going to screw it up at this point, it's on you. Thankfully, I never did really get into any serious trouble, but at that point, I think the dads are probably looking to let out some steam too.
Hell yeah. Yeah. And because they're on the trip too. Yeah, of course. I mean, they want their sons to join. Like, hey, we got a table booked at Caesars. We can't be late,
And Grant, to be clear, when Trent says the dads disappeared, we're sharpening skates, we're washing uniforms.
Well, hockey has a lot of gear. Yeah, there's a lot of, all the respect in the world to you guys. I don't know if it's kind of clear through this. Hockey was not readily available in my area of Western Ohio. So my travel experience was primarily baseball, which, as long as the jersey is washed for the next day, you're kind of good to go. But no, you got to tape the sticks and you got to get everything. I mean, you got to have a large vehicle for those bags. I love the shout out to what you said, the Ford Explorer.
The Green Goblin. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
that's great.
Before we go to the next segment, shout out to the moms. Small story. We were playing, Trent's team was played in the Buckeye Hockey League. So we're up in Canada and, you walk into the rink and there's the Canadian and U.S. map and all the pins. There's teams from all over Canada, Minnesota, Michigan. And then, there's this one pin down from Kentucky and it's like, they're little rock stars. There's radio stations. You guys know how big Silver Stick tournaments are. And so everybody wanted to meet like this team from the South. So that was us. So that made it really cool. After that, we're driving back home and somewhere about Detroit, Trent's mom she goes, all right, here's the deal, boys. The windows are going down. Dad turned the heat on. Trent's gear smells like absolute manure in this car. So we drive home from Detroit with the windows cracked in the dead of winter.
Yeah, no, it's true. I played in the men's league. I played in the men's game last night and nothing's changed. I mean, it smells like straight ass. So
you think we'd have an advancement in technology, but I don't think we're ever going to get there.
Febreze bombs. That's about it.
It's as close as it can get, I think.
Yeah, that's about it. With that, looks like we got our first power play of game 4, and the Panthers are going on power play. Yeah, looks like Sam Bennett took a little high elbow, maybe a knee. Hard to see from the slow.
Well, it looks like it's knee to knee, Trent.
Yeah. Oh, he got sandwiched there between a couple players, so I couldn't tell. There was an elbow up there somewhere, and then it looks like Darnell Nurse's knee. He's in the box. So let's go straight into our cup analysis here. Panthers are up 3-0, as we said. Some fandomship shenanigans out of the gate. Haven't really seen this since the Boston series against Florida when Boston Bruins fans were sneaking into the hotel, pulling the fire alarm all night. Turns out it didn't matter. Panthers went on to win. As the Panthers aircraft was approaching the Alberta airspace, which I imagine is big time, Class Bravo, whole shebang, air traffic controllers are attempting, and they went on to say jokingly, I'm going to put jokingly in quotations because I'm going to leave that to interpretation for all the fans out there. ATC attempts to make the Panthers plane hold for an extended period of time, so they hit bingo fuel and would have to divert, wasting time, landing somewhere else, and essentially not being able to land in Alberta on time. Coming from an aviation community, I'd be a little frustrated if I was in the cockpit. I'm not gonna lie. From a hockey player's perspective, yeah, I expected nothing less here. I mean, these fans clearly want the cup, and they've got to be disappointed being down 3-0. So I thought that was a funny addition before we really break down the stats.
These Canadian airspace operators, they're doing everything they can to help their team, but I don't know. I don't know if that's flying in the States.
That's mad. Yeah, FAA. That's no joke to the FAA. They don't mess around with that crap. All right, with that, Oilers have scored 4 goals in 3 games. The Panthers have scored 11 goals in 3 games. The power play, a little bit of a difference. The Panthers are 1 for 9. Oilers are 0 for 10. For a team that clearly leans heavily on an elite special teams, I think it's more of a testament to the Panthers' penalty kill because the Oilers definitely rely heavily on scoring from that power play. The shots in the series have been 70 to 86 in favor of the Edmonton Oilers. The Corsi average evens out a little bit more. Oilers lead that 52% to 48%, as you recall. That's essentially a breakdown of who is throwing the most pucks to the net in the offensive zone. So here's where the depth comes into play, and I think this is where the big difference lies in this series. The line of Ryan McLeod, Evander Kane, Connor Brown, 0 goals for and 2 against at even strength. The line of McDavid, Hyman, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins have 0 goals for and 1 against at even strength. And when you've got a power play that's 0 for 10 and your big line has scored 1 goal in 3 games at even strength, that's not going to cut it. And that's been the difference. Some heroics to Bobrovsky. Oh, look, our first goal. Edmonton just scored. Good for them.
A little shorthanded act.
Little shorty. They're gonna, and that's the need. That's what they haven't had.
That's kind of what you don't want to say, oh, that's what they've been missing because it's like a shorthanded goal.
Sure.
Okay, that's not going to be in the bag. But like those moments where they kind of can take control of the game and flip momentum or just assert their, dominance in the way that they want to do it, it has been missing.
And not to weigh or put a bag of sand on the guy currently sitting in the box, but Darnell Nurse was on the ice for 6 scoring chances against last game. And for your team's top defenseman, essentially, that's got to improve. They're not going to win. They're not going to come back in this series if that continues. Just period. The thing for me that I note about the Florida Panthers, one, we've spoken to their blue line to the nth degree. It is elite. They all can score, but they all shut down the house, as we talked about last episode. They turn it on in the third period. Currently, they have a plus 17 goal differential through the playoffs in the third periods. So even if they're first and second were maybe lackluster, you can pretty much counting on the Panthers putting the foot on the gas, stepping on the throat, and going for the kill in the third period. And that to me shows resilience that coaching instills. Paul Maurice has coached a fantastic playoff run here, and I know Rich has got some favorable opinions about that man as he looks to give Florida, Fort Lauderdale in particular, its first Stanley Cup.
I think there was a point in game 2 where like Evander Kane hadn't even having a shot on net. And, granted, this isn't like young Atlanta Thrasher Evander Kane, but if he's not like getting anything, it's indicative of what we're seeing in these 3 games. Is just Edmonton is not getting the chances. They're not even really at a, like Bobrovsky's made some amazing saves. And there's these moments in transition where, yeah, Edmonton's going to have their like really speed heavy guys on him, but they're not even really like testing him in a way that you typically see in the playoffs where it's like, okay, we can break a guy down. Like they're really not banging on the door much at all. Now, if they can get a power play goal here, like I said, we might be in a different conversation, but Florida's just taken the air out of Edmonton's offense. That game 2, that third period, they, Kane, not getting shots on net, but he was, antagonizing enough, drew a penalty, and they pulled the goalie to get 6-on-4, and it didn't even matter. Like those were the moments where it's like, okay, if you're gonna get back in the game, if you're gonna find the moment, you got to take advantage of these little breaks, especially late in the third period, and it's just not happening for them.
Grant, great analysis. And I got to tell you guys, when you go into next year, think about adding like a ghost award. I think myself and a lot of my guys have really enjoyed the way you guys break down each series and you've got the non-existent player. So I'm going to give you my ghost award so far through the Stanley Cup championship. And I'm going to give that to Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. The guy against the Panthers, 1 assist, a -3, regular season, 18 goals, postseason 6 goals, and just been a ghost out there. And I just want to echo Grant's point. It's where the big guns have not come through. He's another one that should have been stepping up here and just non-existent player.
Yeah, coming from the top, they've leaned heavily on the top line, and that's been the case, as we said, I think last episode, for probably a good 5 years here. Now, with this series has come some fireworks, and shockingly, we haven't seen a suspension. I want to go on record and saying if this was another series, if we weren't in a Stanley Cup final, we're probably looking at a fair amount of missed games here due to discipline. Does anyone disagree with me?
I don't disagree, but I don't mind that they're just kind of keeping the guys out here. But at the same time, like, I don't know, Florida's up 3 games. So like, what would it really matter? I don't know.
No, it wouldn't matter,
Yeah.
but you kind of got a Coach Herman Boone, remember the Titans vibe going here. Let the boys play. I don't hate it.
Movie.
I don't hate it. So yeah, just something to keep note of. I'm glad that no one's gotten hurt though. That's the worst.
No, you're right. I mean, there's a limit, but a lot of eyes on this. I mean, ESPN's got it for the first time in a while. It's on the big boy ABC, which we can get into their presentation of the games a little later. I know we got something fun to talk about, but yeah, I mean, depending on how this game plays out, I don't think anyone's going to remember that. Now, if this goes 7 and there's more back and forth, that's definitely a storyline I'm watching. It's just how much more kind of antagonizing and stuff's going to happen.
I tell you what, I can't imagine that the fans of Alberta, the last thing they want to see are the likes of Sam Bennett and Matthew Tkachuk with his soggy as hell mouth guard halfway hanging out of his lips, dancing around with the cup on their home ice.
I saw a photo on Twitter, and it was like, should have it pulled up, but I think it was Tkachuk was involved, but it was also like 2 other guys, and none of them had the mouthpiece like in the mouth, like they were like chewing on it, and it was in the middle of the gameplay, like it's a break to the net. And the caption was just like, not a single mouth guard doing its job out there.
I got to imagine that's a house of horrors for most fans in Edmonton right now. So we'll see how it goes. Live update as it stands in live recording. There's 12 minutes and 44 seconds left. Edmonton Oilers lead 1-0. They have 4 shots on net to Florida Panthers 3. Not a whole lot of fireworks as we expected with the cup on the line. Is everyone satisfied here with Panthers versus Oilers Stanley Cup?
I'm hoping it's hard to sweep. It's really hard to sweep. We have not been good at predicting in these moments, Trent. We got to be honest. We got to look ourselves in the mirror. I'm hoping we get, some more hockey after tonight. That was nice. This is bad doing live. We got tough reactions. Edmonton just got another goal, folks.
Yes, they did. I think Grant's a touch ahead of Trent and I, but I'm going to double down on Grant's comment. We all want more hockey. The season ends. It just gets tough. Love baseball, but that's all we got at the time is the baseball season. Go Yankees. Who said that? But it's been a good series. And I almost pulled the DraftKings app, Grant. I was talking to Trent today. I said, what do you think? And he was like, I think it's going to be a sweep, Dad. And I was leaning pretty hard the other way. So I don't even want to look at the draft. Oh, Grant, you're right. The DraftKings odds right now, because you're going to pay a fortune to get very little if you want to stick with the Oilers for this game.
I'll conclude it with I've got money on the money line for the Florida Panthers and a parlay with that for the under 5.5. And I need the Oilers to slow down a little bit if that's going to come true. So with that, we'll wrap that up. We're going to move into a press conference that we did not cover on purpose a couple weeks ago. I want to leave this open for when we planned on having Rich on the show. So Chris McFarland, Gabriel Landeskog announced that they are sitting down with the city of Denver for Gabe's first press conference in well over 6 months to give an update on his timeline and his hypothetical return to the NHL to play for the Colorado Avalanche. Everyone in every Avs media outlet thought he was announcing his retirement. I have been confident this entire time, probably blindly. I am a thoroughbred that wears blinders sometimes and just kind of go with my loyalty and don't think about it. Don't ask questions. Just sprint straight ahead. And it,
very self-aware.
And does it bite me in the ass sometimes? Yeah, probably. Not the point. The point is Gabe Landeskog walks in wearing a hoodie t-shirt type deal. One of those like hoodie, not a full length hoodie, like a short sleeve hoodie. And
I'm a big fan of those.
And a flat bill with the Yeti foot, the Avalanche secondary branding logo on his head. And he just kicks off the press conference with, I think I'd dress up a bit more if I was retiring, everybody. And then the exhale, the city of Denver, there was a huge wind that blew from west to the east coast all in one motion. The exhale of an entire city as the man pretty much confirmed at some point in this coming season, he will be back. So my thing here and why you can hang your hat on this and why you have to believe in this is because before July 1 hits in 2024, which is a mere 15 days away, Joe Sakic and Chris McFarland needed clarity on the salary cap and how they were going to be able to utilize that. Gabe's a classy guy. He's the captain of this team still, even through this injury. He had to be transparent with them. And every conversation they've had post-surgery with every doctor and every trainer and everyone had to be on the same page essentially. So the fact that they're all sitting down together and announcing this in one unified voice tells me, Avs fans, you can count on this man, this Viking warrior coming back this season. I'm not telling you when because I don't know and I'll lose money even trying to predict it, but he's coming back and that's all that matters. So I'm excited.
I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
I'm excited for you. Yeah, I mean, kind of a weird move to call like a press conference, just be like, I'm still here, like a little bit, right? I mean, I get why people thought he was retiring.
Yes and no. Yes, it built a lot of anxiety, but also it was kind of due because they totally like built it up like maybe he's coming back for the playoffs. And then that turns out was not even on the table in Jared Bednar's eyes. So, and that kind of pissed me off. They kind of just lied to us there for a couple weeks. So
you got to keep you on your toes.
Yeah, for real.
Grant and Trent always say light the lamp, and Mr. Tarasenko just lit the lamp, boys. We got a 2-1
Look
game.
at that.
Yeah, with that, folks, 8 minutes, 30 seconds left in the first period. Shots are 9-8 in favor of Florida. Vladimir Tarasenko.
I like flavor. I think that was a good,
Yeah, flavored. Gustav Forsling with the shot. My man, my high value man on the blue line for the Florida Panthers. Great decision. I'll say it again to sign that guy. He is a stud. So with that, our traditional segment here, Rich, Grant, the house is dirty. Guys, you need to go get your Swiffers. You need to go get your dusters. Wait, this house is a mess and we got to clean it up.
I got a lot to pick up on this one.
Okay.
I was feeding Trent headlines all week. I was away from work and was just, scrolling Twitter a lot in between, conferences that I had attended. And it was such heavy hockey stuff. Do you mind if I take the lead here?
Seabiscuit run.
Okay. First one that we got to talk about, the Washington Capitals.
Oh, what the hell?
They bought a website. The website's called CapFriendly. For those who don't know, it's a hockey analytics website, specifically salary data. So how much a player is paid over how many, years. It's laid out in a really user-friendly way. You can categorize, you can basically organize your web page by like teams. So you can bring up like the Blue Jackets. Like I have the Sharks CapFriendly up because we were talking about them. So I see all their draft picks. I see their forwards, how much they're paid a year, when they become free agents. There's very cool little kind of asterisks for certain players to say this guy has, a no trade clause. This guy's waiver exempt. Very user friendly. If you don't have any knowledge of team salary, you can spend 30 minutes to an hour on CapFriendly and have a very good understanding of where a team is at. It's very popular, and the Washington Capitals basically got jealous that everyone else was using this except for them and bought the service to basically bring all of the salary tools in-house because they don't have, instead of building something like CapFriendly for their internal use, which a lot of teams have done over the course of the, past 10 to 15 years, they're just buying it for themselves. And because they're under the NHL umbrella, they can't keep it public. So they have to kill it on July 5th, which leads to the other part. The NHL doesn't really like that this stuff is out there. They would prefer that everyone just kind of be in the dark and not know because it gives their kind of owners, I think, probably like leverage. I mean, agents and fans love this because it creates transparency, but very selfish move by the Caps. to just nuke CapFriendly basically for their own internal. And listen, they better win a cup pretty soon with this information. If you're going to buy CapFriendly and just be, excuse my language here, but if you're going to be a dog shit team for a couple seasons like you were this year, that I think take issues with that, friend.
Look, every big hockey fan has used CapFriendly. I've used CapFriendly. It's
so helpful.
It gives
if I'm
you
bored at work, I have CapFriendly on. This website's done so much for me.
It's so fun too, and it gives you that just good, transparent insight. Like, hey, if I'm the GM of this team and I make this trade, where does that put me with the salary cap? It helps paint a clear picture, so you can be a part of it, or at least feel a part of it rather. And
all of the things I thought that would happen to like make my fan viewing experience bad, I never thought this would be one of them. I'd be like, I could see a scenario where the Jackets trade Johnny Gaudreau. Like that would suck. That would really hurt me, but it's like, I would get that. I'd still be a fan. Never in my wildest dreams, I think the Washington Capitals would just take my favorite website off the face of the earth come July 5th.
It's almost like Moneyball. Like where's Peter Brandt? We need like Money Puck.
Yeah.
Have somebody come in. Wouldn't you love to see some of these cellar dwellers like we were talking about, take the Sharks or the Ducks and they bring in like a Peter Brandt and they just redo the whole thing and put it together. Like we can get this guy on the cheap. We can get this guy. We need a defenseman.
We found a defenseman from Finland. We can get him for $500,000. Everyone else is going to pay him $2 million. Yeah.
I love it. Like take your shot if you're in some of these bottom teams. I love it, Grant.
Okay. So with that, everyone's satisfied or rather unsatisfied with the cap.
There's similar sites. They will kind of pop up, but we might, as we get closer to free agency, we might try as a podcast say, hey, I like this site more. I like this site. There are other avenues for this, but CapFriendly was head and shoulders above all of them.
I can't wait for Capitals ownership to announce exclusive memberships and subscriptions for their CapFriendly website.
I don't even think it's that. It's literally for their like coaches to be like, how much are we paying this guy? What?
That's absurd.
Yeah.
Okay, with that, Raleigh, North Carolina, all you Caniacs out there, we love talking about you. We're huge fans of you all. You guys are awesome. Rob Brindamore's sticking around, and so is Eric Tulsky. Eric Tulsky, longtime Caniac in his own right, named GM of Carolina this week, has risen through the ranks of the program. So, guy was an analyst for the Carolina Hurricanes, 2014 to 2017, director of analytics until 2020, and then assistant GM, most recent, through 2020 to 2024. And now with the big promotion after the departure of Don Waddle, who we're going to talk about here briefly, Eric Tulsky was very quick on the button, signing immediately Jalen Chatfield to a 3-year deal for $3 million. Great value signing. Guy had 22 points in 72 games, plus 15 and averaging 15 minutes on the ice. That's no slouch, and somebody that you got at a good price and will shore up some depth as they look to build on the second round exits that they're trying to fix.
Yeah, so he's been there for as long. They've had a good run of success. I would say dating back. How long do you think that 2018, 2019? So when they first started to kind of pop up, and he's been there for the bulk of that. So congrats to him for getting the promotion and rising through the ranks. We talk a lot about the Canes here, but I think they're still going to be playing Canes hockey there.
Yeah.
For the next couple of years. They got a system in place that's, reload basically every year. And Chatfield's a part of that at this point. Good ticket for the guy.
100%. And on the note of the Carolina Hurricanes, previous GM Don Waddle was seen in the flesh at our bar in Columbus, Ohio this past week. And if you're unfamiliar, the Arena District of Columbus, Ohio, its most prominent bar is the R Bar. And our co-host in all his glory, Grant, chose not to attend to meet Don Waddle. What in the world?
There's some moments, we were talking off air. I really enjoy my job. It's very satisfying and fulfilling and in both ways, financially and personally. and I get to travel pretty extensively for it. And this past week I was in the beautiful city of Atlanta, Georgia. And while I was away, the new GM for my favorite hockey team was at easily my favorite bar here in Columbus, just shaking hands, talking with everybody. It wasn't like super overly produced. I think the team did have, their social media person there to kind of, take the photos, but it wasn't like this huge Hollywood thing. He really was just kind of going around, hey, how you doing? Thanks for coming out. Happy to be here. Excited to get to work sort of thing. So yeah, and if if you've never been to Columbus, you have been to Columbus, the arena district's called that way for the, Columbus Blue Jackets nationwide arena. That whole area, used to be our state penitentiary, and some fine folks from Nationwide Real Estate Financial and Worthington Steel, brought the Jackets here during expansion, and they had the foresight to not just build, an arena in a sea of asphalt parking lots. They built apartments with areas for bars beneath them. They built, covered walkways. They made it very user friendly. So it's kind of stood the test of time. Our bar's been there, not from the get-go, but it might be the longest standing one right now. A couple of the places, the establishments didn't have a great time post-COVID, but our bar is in a city where Ohio State football is still king. Our bar is a bastion, a jewel box of just hockey culture. And folks that have been there can testify to that. Waddle going there so soon. This is great. This is huge. This is a big deal. We love to see this. It's those early days of partnership where someone's like, oh, they're saying all the right things. They're doing all the great stuff. He's campaigning for himself basically right now. So we love to see it. These are one of the things when you're new, it's fun. If, time goes on and it's not the greatest situation, which we hope that's not the case, he probably won't be showing up to our bar much. But right now when it's new and exciting, yeah, by all means, man, get out there. And because I think it was the night of game 2, it was packed. Because it is it's a place where you can go and know that hockey is going to be on the TV, even if the Jackets might not be playing. So good showing for the hockey town culture of Columbus.
Trent, I think we need a hockey update. Double Nickels just buried one on a feather pass from Mr. Draisaitl.
Yeah, it's 3-1 now. Edmonton Oilers. I don't love my bet for the under at this point. So if you're looking to do a live bet, don't take the under, right? It's not going to happen.
That seemed like a really good bet to start the night.
Yeah, I really was confident in it, but like you said, we've just been terrible with our picks.
What's the line?
Shit, I don't remember.
6.5?
Not the 5.5. It was 5.5.
5.5?
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. All right. It's still alive.
Tough bet at this point.
The game could tighten up.
Yeah, they could tighten it up. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But
rooting for the under is the worst, though.
The problem is the Florida Panthers got to win for this parlay to work, and now for them to win, going to crush.
Okay.
So my bet's pretty much over, and that's okay. So with that, Grant, for the record, the only reason I called you out on not attending is because I really wanted the folks to hear just about your blue collar mentality and your work ethic of late, because it's blue collar only on this show. My father, I know, works his ass off as well. We all work our ass off. That's why we had David Jensen on here last week to join the club. So with that, you got Don Waddle now showing that he's got a little blue collar work ethic, and you got star player Patrick Laine requesting a trade out of Columbus this summer. He's got 9 points in 18 games this past season, largely in part due to pretty much a season-long injury. I, for one, I know you're going to have a strong opinion on this, think this is a smart move. They need to part ways, and they can get a lot in return for him.
You hope you can. When a guy says he wants out, I think he's got a no trade clause, so he has leverage to say where he wants to go. That always kind of changes things a little bit. Yeah, man, it's one of these moments where, we'll be honest, the Jackets historically haven't been a place where like star players, find themselves. And we had Rick Nash here forever and he was great. We got him through the draft and, we got Panarin through a trade. But, Laine was someone here that during a kind of a time of transition, we traded him for Pierre-Luc Dubois. I thought Pierre-Luc Dubois would be here for years. I thought he was going to be, captain in waiting. And it was never going to be a like for like trade, obviously a different type of player, but it was like, okay, we're going to keep this going a little bit with a guy like Laine. And he battled injuries. He had a really difficult season a few years back. His father passed away. We just talked about how important fathers are to all of us, and a few coaching changes. I mean, he came here halfway through Torts' last year, where Torts didn't really want to be here anymore either. And Foligno talked him into staying, and there started to be a disagreement on kind of what the type of players the GM, the front office, was delivering to Torts, and he wasn't really on the same page. And, they kind of split semi-amicably, and Laine was unfortunately kind of not, I won't say caught in the middle of that, but it's hard to find the right vision for the future when you have so much change. And we bounced around this kind of experiment with him playing center this past year. I was always skeptical. I think he's a really talented guy. When he's hot, there's very few wingers better in the NHL. I mean, he really finds the back of the net. And we saw that at times over these past 4 seasons. And it's intoxicating when he's on fire. But you got to have a really good team around him. And we had bigger issues as a team than, a goal scoring winger, unfortunately. So I wish him the best. He was always he's still pretty young, and he was always very, what he said in the media, he was always saying the right things. He never once said anything negative about Columbus, which that's all we care about here is just, hey, love our city. So I hope we can find him a good spot, and he can keep playing. I think he's still got some tread on those tires. I think he'd be great for a team that's battling for the playoffs, because he is such a weapon when he's healthy and on the ice. But it's time to make the change, and we got to find out what our goals are here, what our vision for the future, what we're trying to do, what's our Peter Brand blueprint for success. And I think it's probably a good move, but it's a shame it didn't really work out, because I remember being just so fired up when he was coming here.
I'm loving the Peter Brand references, and I also love that you used the word bastion a couple minutes ago. I really like that.
Ooh,
that was a nice little gem there. Yeah, to your point, from a hypothetical GM perspective, there is a team out there that is going to overpay for the name. Patrick Laine is a name, and a team will overpay. I think a team like the New Jersey Devils, who probably overpaid at this point for Timo Meier from the San Jose Sharks. There are teams that totally fixate on the name, and like you said a couple weeks ago, they just can't help themselves but spend money in the off season, even if it doesn't pan out. I just got to spend. I got to go buy somebody.
Yeah.
And they don't think it through. And then years down the line, they regret how much they paid. And that's okay, because Columbus is gonna be the victor in this situation. It's a tale as old as time too. Don Waddle coming in with a new vision. It's gonna turn around. It's a part of the renaissance. It's a part of the yeah,
100%. And the retooling, it can be exciting. And Jackets fans have been as patient as anyone in the world with this organization, almost to a fault. But I do kind of think, even if Waddle, if Yarmo and John Davison were still in charge, I still think Laine probably is saying, hey guys, it's just not working,
Sure.
He was on the NHL Player Association Player Assistance Program at the end of the year. He's only 26. I think a change of scenery makes a lot of sense. It's also one of those, and not to get too in the weeds here, I almost think if COVID doesn't kind of shut the world down, maybe he's in a different place. He was so far from home, and we just weren't able to do a lot. He was playing a lot of games beginning with an empty crowd. I don't know, man. It's just one of those tough player acquisitions where you think on paper this is gonna be gangbusters, but the game's not played on paper. And sometimes you're reminded that in unfortunate ways.
Sure. With that, is everyone ready for the hard hats of the week?
Let's do it.
The hard hats of the week are sponsored by Leroy's Bar. Located in the heart of Worcester, Ohio, Leroy's establishment has provided cheap pitchers and a safe haven for blue-collar workers alike since 1969. Leroy's can be your hockey home for all the NHL playoff action. Drink responsibly and drive safe. Okay, who's got it?
Let Richie lead it off.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna lead. All right, here we go. I'm gonna do mine one at a time. My top 3 hard hat hockey of the week. My number 1 is head coach of the Florida Panthers, Paul Maurice. And I just love one of these quotes. First of all, they are up 3-0 going to this game tonight. The man has done an incredible job motivating the team, keeping the team focused. And how about this one? We may not be the best team, but we don't suck. So that's my number one hard head of the week. My number 2 hard head of the week is Florida Panthers head coach Paul Maurice. We will systematically deconstruct, frustrate, embarrass, and obliterate the Bruins one game at a time, in which Coach Maurice and the Florida Panthers did. So I think you guys know, after arguably one of the best quotes of the year after Game 3, Coach Paul Maurice, hard hat hockey of the week. This isn't the Oprah Winfrey Show. My feelings don't matter, after commenting on Draisaitl's hit on Barkov. So my 1, 2, and 3 are Coach Paul Maurice. We need a lot more candid guys like this instead of the ABC clad answers. The boys got to get back to sleep and skate harder. So after that, I'm going to give it to my man Grant Miller.
Oh man, that's a tough act to follow. That was good. That was good. I see where Trent gets his sense of humor from. This is a lot of fun for me. That was solid. My number 3 hard hat of the week here. I'm going to go with Barkov for kind of taking that hit from Draisaitl. He's had a great series. He's kind of exemplifies what the Panthers are doing well. And you know, I'm happy he's not hurt, because I think the top players, as they kind of get going, you want to see them out there. My number 2 is a guy who had just a phenomenal game. Game 2, I know we're kind of going hard on that, but Evan Rodriguez, kid, has had an amazing playoffs, and I think he's really shining at the moment. Love these guys who just get on fire come the playoffs, and he's really one of them. I know he's been solid for them for the whole season, but when the stage is the biggest, you got to show up, and he's doing everything right for the Panthers, and big reason why they are 3 games to none. And then my number 1, we already talked about Don Waddle coming to our bar, man. You come to our bar, you as a pro in any capacity, you're getting a hard hat number 1 from me. So I don't want to rehash that too much, but I was just so excited when I saw that, because it just getting into the hockey culture here in Columbus. We'd love to see it.
Love to see it. Boys, at number 3, I've got Philip Pritchard. For those of you who don't know, Phil is the keeper of the Stanley Cup and has been for over 25 years. You often see him sporting those white gloves and walking the cup onto the ice and prancing around with it over the summer, as every player gets to do God knows what with it after they win the Stanley Cup. So
he's got some charisma too. He does interviews on his own, and he can handle the spotlight.
Yeah,
which is such a funny part of that job.
Yeah, dude's got one of the better jobs in the world. So that's really cool and good for him. Number 2,
right? Good pick.
Yeah, I changed this on the fly because you went with Erod. So I'm going to go with the fans of the Minnesota Wild. In 1993, they lost their precious Minnesota North Stars to Dallas as the team was moved, and that did not sit well. Probably still doesn't sit well. But it has been decided that in 2026, Minnesota Wild are getting rebranded and will sport the Minnesota North Star colors. So I know a lot of those fans will appreciate that and look forward to those jerseys that, frankly, I think look pretty sharp. So I think that's going to be a nice rebrand.
I like the North Star. How do you feel about the Wild logo, just in general?
I don't love it, man. Like, it's okay. The logo's okay, but that red with the green
I thought it looked really cool as a kid. I think it was one of those things because it's like a predator's kind of face, but then it's got a trail. That was something like 2000. You're like, oh wow, that's amazing. I always think of things like that, like the old Big Ten logo that had like the 11 in the middle of the Big Ten logo because Penn State joined. And it's like, oh, you can do so many stuff with the negative space. The Minnesota Wild logo makes me think of that. I think this is a good move. Do you think this is possible because like Dallas doesn't really use, like, I know they're green, but it's different enough? Because you imagine that's probably why they didn't just run it back, is because Dallas.
Yeah, it's a different shade of green too. It's a brighter green.
It allows for Minnesota to essentially retake that branding.
And it's no offense to them, but it does kind of look like a Christmas advertisement from time to time. So
Stars?
No, the Minnesota Wild.
Yeah. Oh, with the red.
Yeah. Which I love Christmas, but when it's your hockey team in October and April, you might need to mix that up a little bit.
Yeah. It had that historically when it first came in, they had that kind of like you're away on a vacation and like a lodge feel. Like everything felt like cedar timber and skiing and yeah, I don't know.
Absolutely. My number one is Alexander Barkov. The guy's going to win the Selke this season as the best two-way forward in the league. And he has absolutely, as we spoke to it earlier, shut down the Edmonton Oilers up to this point, and been a huge reason as to why they are up 3-0. Connor McDavid, Draisaitl, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins won the coveted Ghost Award this evening, thanks to Father Richie Dunn.
That's a good one.
Love that introduction. Yeah, Alexander Barkov gets this one for me. He's my hardhead of the week. With that, that's where we wrap it up. Our question for the fans, just as a reminder, favorite hockey memory with Dad. Reach out, Facebook, Twitter, email hardheadhockey1@gmail.com. Go celebrate Father's Day. If you're fortunate enough to still have your father around, reach out, let him know you love him. Grant, parting shots?
No, man, this was a blast. Thank you, Mr. Dunn, for hopping on here. This was really enjoyable to have a third mic and hey, you and Trent kind of going back and forth with some stories. We'll have to keep that going.
Rich?
That was a great time.
Boys, you've got a great thing going here. I could not have loved the David Jensen interview last week. I was like, wow, never follow a killer, right? I had to follow a killer. So it was an absolutely great time. Grant, I've told Trent, you guys are terrific together. You guys are just getting started. This thing's got a big upside, and I tell you, your fans are going to love every minute of it and every year of it. Congratulations.